Are you gonna talk?
No.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
She was a little girl.
I was young.
Like a little girl.
Okay, now let's just back up. I was 14 years old the first time I laid eyes on this man. He had just come home from Bible college. So my Christian school that I attended was where his parents went to church. And that was in the San Francisco Bay Area. And he had moved from, his family had lived in one town when he went away to college, and then he moved to another town when he came home. So when he came back home, he came to a church that he was kind of the new guy in the college department, which...
It's called New Meat.
New Meat. Anyone who's watched a young adult college ministry, when a new guy walks in, you know, there's always that, oh, maybe this is husband material. So he walks in and I see him, and he's super, super cute, but I see all these, you know, 20-somethings looking at him, and he starts dating all of them, basically.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe not dating.
Oh, no, you dated.
Okay,
no, you
fine,
dated.
whatever.
Yeah, you dated.
So here's the, I don't even know what I was going to say now.
See, in your defense, you have no defense.
Yeah.
He was kind of oblivious. You know how it is, the guy walks in, he's like, wow, all these girls are so friendly. But I'm sitting back going, oh, I see what's happening here.
It was just a friendly church.
Yeah.
It's what all churches should be.
And so I remember the first time I met him, he was working on the buses. This was back in the 70s when churches had a bus ministry. I don't know if you know about that. You guys are kind of young. But he had come home from college, and he was working, just volunteering, or maybe they paid you.
No, I was being paid.
Oh,
I was teaching Old Testament survey.
Oh, yeah.
And working on buses. I don't know how you get that mix of compilation in there, but
so he was in the back working on one of the buses, and I walked back there. I was looking for my sister, actually. At the time, my sister was dating his brother. So I met him first time.
One of her sisters was dating one of my brothers.
Yes, there you go. And so
we don't have any more than one brother or sister, but you have to say that so nobody really knows who you're talking about.
There you go. Could be anybody.
So they were going out, but her parents didn't want them to be going out alone.
So I always had to go with them.
So Rhonda had to go with them. So
I walk back, I'm looking for them, and I run into Steve, which I call him Stoppe, because there's a million Steves in our life, so our last name is Stoppe, so he's Stoppe. So if I say that, I'm talking about him. So I see him, and I have a banter back and forth, where's my sister, and he's kind of being charming, clever, funny. And I walked away, and I'm 14 years old. I walk away, and I had this fleeting thought, I'm going to marry him. And then I'm like, where did that come from? I'm so embarrassed. That's silly. And that was the first time I ever met him. And then, honestly, he was 20. So I'm 14, he's 20. And he's thinking...
Oh, I'm thinking, wow, she's cute, but oh, good grief, she's a baby.
Stay away.
Stay away, that's dangerous.
So he was very, very not, he didn't give me a whole lot of attention. And so we became friends. And then over the years...
So because one of her sisters and one of my brothers were dating... It's very,
yeah, I got it.
Thinking.
Yeah.
So because of that, she had to go with him on dates. So somewhere in there, she said, hey, you want to go along so I don't have to be with them like a third wheel? And so we just kind of went along and just did whatever they were doing and just went to different places and
hung out. We did a lot of water skiing back in those days on the Sacramento Delta. If you live in Sacramento, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, that was the best time of our life.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, all the time that we're hanging out, he's still dating these women. And I remember he bought this car. He bought a 1969 Mach 1.
428 Cobra Jet. RRR.
And he came over.
Sound effects here.
Yeah, exactly. And we still regret that we sold that car. And he came over to my parents' house where his brother was, because he was dating my sister. And he came over to tell him about the car. Well, he had stopped and shown the car to some other girl that he had been dating before he came to my house. And I remember just feeling very like, oh, he'll never notice me, he'll never care. So that's how we met. And there was a long time in there where he stayed clear of me, and we were just friends. And one of the stories that I tell, I have a book out. He and I wrote a book together called If My Husband Would Change, I'd Be Happy, and Other Myths Wives Believe. And so mine and Steve's love stories kind of all filtered through the book. And one of my favorite stories I talk about in the book is to help people remember those magical moments that you had when you were dating. Because I think when we're married, we forget how we fell in love. We forget how, excited we were when they would look our way. And, I always tell women, I stalked Steve Stoppe long before there was internet. When you stalked somebody back in the 70s, you had to place yourself at the right place at the right time.
It was work.
And then accidentally bump into them.
Yeah.
It was a lot more strategy.
And not have them know that you accidentally were there.
Yeah, it had to be completely done.
Amazing thing. Yeah.
So I hadn't seen Stoppe in a while, and I was a cheerleader for the high school that I went to. And we went to a basketball game. Yes, this is a fun story.
Oh, okay.
And I saw his cool Mach 1 in the parking lot, and it was completely like you knew it was his car.
Mediterranean blue with the shaker hood, by the way.
I don't think he's going to get past the car, but we'll just move on. And then so I'm thinking, oh my goodness, Stoppe's here, I'm going to see him. And so I'm kind of, all excited, and I walk in the gymnasium, and as I walk in, he's coming toward me, and he makes a layup in a basket. You know how gymnasiums are pretty small sometimes, and the basket is like right as you walk in the entrance. So he makes this layup, and he makes a basket, and he kind of freezes down, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and he kind of gives me this cute little smile, and then off he goes to play the rest of the game. Well, he was playing an alumni game for the school that my high school was going to play basketball against. So I was like, oh, he saw me, he knows I'm here, he's going to come talk to me, I'm so excited, I haven't seen him in a while. And so I'm waiting. And then he comes out after he's had his shower after the game, and there's a woman on his arm. And I was crushed.
No.
I know, right? And I was crushed because she wasn't a little girl like I was. I was a teenager. I was a high schooler, but she was a woman.
Yeah.
And I watched him walk up the bleachers with this woman, introducing her to all the people he went to high school with, and my heart just sank. I was like, he's never going to notice me. And I looked down at my little block on my chest that said Rhonda, yay, on it, and I had my hair in a ponytail, and I was just like, that's it, it's over, he's never going to notice me. So that story I love because I remember how I felt whenever there was finally a chance that he started paying attention to me. But at that moment it was just like, oh, he'll never notice me. And then as the story goes on and I dated boys and he dated women, then as I got a little bit older, our paths crossed again. You're like, the man has issues about his car.
He loves that car. Oh man. So then, well, did anything happen after that? That was somewhere in there. I realized she wasn't a little girl anymore.
Yeah. Well,
And
I know
she
the
was
story, but
graduating
I was
high
kind of
school.
wondering if you remembered it.
Yeah, I kind of do. I remember it as you tell it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there was a time when we were sitting in his Mach 1.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he was expressing that he had gone to see this certain person, and I'm not going to name names or make it.
No, that would be good.
That would be wrong. And I was like, oh my goodness, if I don't say anything now, I'm never going to say anything. Because I played it pretty cool, like the whole time that our families had been friends, and I just kept the friend card going. And so as I got older, I was like, okay, if I don't say anything now, I'm never going to have a shot at this guy. So we're both sitting in this Mach 1. I don't know why I have a story about everything around this car. We really should have kept that car.
Yeah. Our whole life is in that car.
Dude! So we're sitting in this car and we're facing forward. And I said, I kind of really don't want you to go see this person. And he said, why not? And my heart's like in my chest pounding. And I'm like, okay, here goes. And I said, because I always kind of thought maybe one day you and I would get together. And then he didn't answer me. He made me sit there in silence. And I was like, oh, I just blew it. I just blew it big time. And then finally he looked over at me and what'd you say? Do you remember?
Uh-huh.
He didn't remember. All he said, it was no big deal. He just looked at me and said, yeah, me too. That's it. That's what he said.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah. If I told you right now you wrote me a poem, you would believe that.
Yeah, it was a beautiful poem.
Yeah, no.
Thank you.
And so anyway, that was the first I like you, do you like me, yes or no, check the box experience. That was our
Yep.
our
I do remember that. That was a
you?
great conversation.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah,
So-
but I had to think real quick on my feet, like,
What was
Go ahead.
the age difference between you guys?
I was probably
It was shorter then. She grew up and I stayed about the same,
Yeah,
so we were
no.
probably within 2 years.
I think I was driving, so I was probably 16 or 17.
I think you're
and
getting
I
close
think
to
he
graduating.
was he was probably about 22. I remember our families went out on his 21st birthday as families, and we weren't dating then, so it was sometime after something. So, yeah, so it was one of those, like, it just kind of took years before it was something where it was like even when people say, when did you start dating? It's like,
we don't really know.
we still date now, just to be sure.
Your faith has guided your marriage and made your relationship stronger.
I'm just trying to maybe put into words what I'm thinking here. I think understanding that our lives are here to serve Christ. I mean, the only reason why we're here on this earth is really to have any real benefit, or to have any real gain, or to have any real maybe you might even say success, is how you serve your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the holiness that is manifested in your life. And I think knowing that, you start to filter that through all areas of your relationships, whether it be your spouse, whether it be the people at church, whether it be whoever it might be, even the world, as you relate even in the world, because you have something greater to offer them than just your good looks and charm, or your abilities, or whatever it might be. You have eternity that you can offer to them. And I think just having that perspective, as you enter into that marriage relationship, you realize that I'm bringing honor to the Lord, to my God, I'm honoring Christ by the way that I treat this woman. It becomes very important. I mean, what Peter say in the 3rd chapter of his book, he says that I'm supposed to live with this woman according to knowledge. In other words, I'm supposed to know her. I go to school on her, understand everything about her, know how she ticks, know why she thinks the way she thinks, know why she does what she does. And he says the reason for that is so you can be so you can come alongside and be the husband you're supposed to be. But there's a reason for that as well, and that is so that your prayers are not hindered. And so a lot of times I think we as men even, because we don't treat our wives well, because we don't, we kind of look at them like, oh man, they never understand, they'll never get it, they'll, whatever it is that sometimes we do as guys. I think that's the whole thing, that when we get to a point where we go, man, I don't feel like God's even answering my prayers. It's like, yeah, duh, he's not, because you're not fulfilling your end of the bargain. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing by being faithful to him and knowing your wife the way you're supposed to. So I think that's probably just our faith and understanding that nuance of it. I think that's probably played into big time what my marriage looks like and what I want it to look like. You hear that song being played, I think Rhonda wrote about it. It's like all of a sudden you kind of look around the room and you're seeing, husbands put their arms around their wives and, kind of look at them and maybe give them a little bit of a, oh yeah, this is us sort of thing. So it's kind of a meaningful that way, and I think it's better than groovy kind of love. So, there's just...
I don't know how you can say that.
I know.
We just celebrated our 35th anniversry on Monday, and this is all
This is the first time she's ever heard
new to
this.
me,
So
that Groovy Kind of Love is not our song.
Yeah. In 35 more years, I got another one I'm going to have to lay on her, but that's later.